hello and welcome to all of our Gold family members from around the world. I'm Fiona Lang Sharp, IBCLC Director of Communications and MC for Gold Learning. Well, I have the pleasure of sitting down with friend and colleague Dr. Alison Hazelbaker today, who is going to be speaking at an upcoming add-on package at our Gold Lactation Conference, and you can check out all the details. Opening keynote is April 1st. I always like to talk about that. That is free and open access view. That will give you some of the inside scoop of all the great things that we have at our conference this year. And Alison's going to be speaking, as I mentioned, as part of that add-on package, Tools of the Trade. That's right, and tools of the trade are very important, and you can see that Alison's going to be talking about the finger feeder. Welcome, Alison, back to Gold Learning. It's great to have you here.
Oh, well, it's always a pleasure, I just love being able to present this kind of material. We don't often get a chance to talk about practical logistical stuff when we're at, the larger conferences. So it's a real pleasure to be able to really get into the nuts and bolts.
Yeah, absolutely. And for those of you listening in, I will give you a heads up. There is going to be video as well, great descriptions. Alison's going to go through everything. So, Alison, tell me though, I mean, there's a strong influence from you here. Tell me about the Hazelbaker finger feeder.
Well, I invented that way back before 1990 because I had been taught by my mentor to use finger feeding therapeutically. And my mentor, Shelley Marmette, who happens to be the architect of the field of lactation consulting, used a periodontal syringe back in those early days. And frankly, a periodontal syringe scares the living daylights out of me. And so after using P syringes for quite some time therapeutically, I just got to the point where I'm going, there's got to be an easier way. Because I tell you what, those things, the rubber thing on the plunger gets sticky with the milk, and
Right.
then you can bolus smoothly, and it was just a mess. And then if you take the plunger out and you just do a little bit of a gravity feed, you can't control the flow, and then the NG tubes with the double hole at the tip, and it's a stiffer tube and all of this, and I just said enough. I can't do this anymore. I got to do something different. So I had kind of a flash of insight. I went off to the drugstore, bought a bunch of stuff to try and make a prototype, did a clay prototype, did a plastic bottle prototype, just monkeyed around with it. Finally, I'm not an artist, but I tried to do some drawings, and I went to Medela and said, hey, obviously I'm not an artist, obviously I'm not an engineer, but could you all engineer something with this? And so
Right.
that evolved into a contract, and Medela's designers then actually did the design of the device, and it ended up looking remarkably similar to my prototype. So kudos to them for doing a great job of that. And so for a while they were the manufacturers and distributors of the finger feeder, and then at some point they decided they didn't want to do it anymore. And so our contract stipulated that everything was to return to me. We had to jump through a few hoops before we could bring it out on the market, and that included a safety and efficacy study. The FDA requires that. And so we did that, and found that it was both safe and efficacious, and so the FDA gave us approval as a Class 1 medical device. So it was quite a journey. It took 5 years from the first meeting with Medela until it came out on the market. It's an onerous process, and so we're very lucky to have it. But specialty devices, especially those made out of medical grade silicone, are extremely expensive to produce, and so they end up being extremely expensive out on the market.
Right.
And you have to jump through a ton of hoops, and then if you want to sell it outside of the United States, you got to jump through a ton more. So so it's amazing that it even got to market.
Right.
But here we are now.
And here we are. I know. And isn't it, I mean, it's very interesting. I don't think for a second we sit back and we go, because we're not in the business of making products, Alison, let's face it, most of us aren't. the amount and effort and time, money that it takes to put into getting something like this that works, which is what you're going to be talking about, and why and how and all those types of things, to into the hands of lactation consultants and families. So thank you, again, just for talking us through that. But thank you for making sure that it's a product that remains on the market for those to use it as well that need it.
Yeah. Yes. Well, I'm thrilled that I've been able to maintain that. We break even, and that's about it. But
Right.
I'm real committed to making sure that we have appropriate tools that are on label use that are approved by the FDA and that aren't going to poison babies in the process.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolute priority. That's wonderful. Well, that's great. Well, if you want to know more about finger feeding, Allison's going to be talking all about it in her presentation, as I mentioned, coming up. But let's turn on a little bit of the personal conversation now, Allison. I gave Allison a little heads up. I was going to be digging deeper into what's happening in her life. But I just want to know, like, what are you doing these days? Are you speaking at some face-to-face conferences? Are you doing workshops? What's happening? Books, videos? I know there's always something on the forefront for you. So tell me what's going on.
Yeah, I'm crazy that way. I just get so antsy I can't sit still. So the most exciting thing that has happened is that my ninth grandchild was born last Saturday.
Oh,
Just about 5 days ago.
congratulations. Oh, that's
Thank you.
amazing. Yeah, well done.
Yes, so Bodie Amelia joined us after a very short labor, and
Oh,
I'm happy to say I can actually hear her right now. Um,
oh,
and she's just a cutie pie. She's just very, very petite, like her older sister,
right.
Penelope, and she weighed in at 8 pounds 7 ounces, but she doesn't look like she's 8 pounds 7 ounces. She looks like she's a 6.5 pounder. She's so small boned.
I tell
Um,
you, this is why we do this work. That's the thing
yeah,
is, keep it real, keep it focused on the family and all those blessings that come along with grandchildren. Number
yeah.
9, Allison, for you. Number 9.
Number 9. I'm just thrilled. And other than that, work-wise, I am just doing lots of cool stuff, writing second edition of the tongue-tied book and doing a
Exciting.
reliability study on the ATLIF using ICC instead of CAFA values, so doing it right.
Right?
And so we're in the midst of that study. We should have our results crunched probably by September, and hopefully in a journal somewhere within a year.
Oh,
So
wow.
I'm real excited about that. And I'm excited about changing a lot of my canned presentations into an online learning format. So
Wonderful.
shifting everything over, getting into the techno groove, which I am not have not been real good at and been really resistant to, but obviously there's a whole new generation of millennials coming
Yeah.
up who are used to sitting and staring at a computer. So
Right.
we have to change with the times, don't we?
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's important that we reach the needs of those around us. I mean, I think our practice is changing constantly, and keeping up sometimes is challenging, especially in the field of education, because it takes an immense amount of research to continue to go back and update things. But in the swing side of that, it's good because it took so long, really, to get a lot of that research in place. And I'm truly grateful for, the things. You're one of my mentors, Allison. I don't know if you know that, but that's how I see you. You have been a change maker and influencer in this field, and if you haven't heard it enough, there's many of us that are very grateful for the research that you have done already.
Well, thank you so much. That's really, really sweet. And wow, that moves me a lot, Fiona, because sometimes you feel like I've been in practice for 35 years. I sometimes feel like I haven't made a difference at all because I see what happens in our bottle feeding culture here in the United States, and I just get sad.
Yeah.
at the problems that we're still having, and it just seems like we haven't shifted a darn thing. Now, I know we have to keep in mind that it's one mother and baby at a time, right? And
Sure.
that it's
Yeah.
important for that one mother and baby to make a difference. Um, but on that broader, understanding of the importance of breastfeeding and making it work, et cetera, and really supporting mothers and babies in the way that they deserve to be supported, I sometimes feel dismayed.
Yeah.
So
No, this
thank you.
Yeah, no, you're welcome. And it's I think this is a common thread that we deal with in this profession. And it is the small things that make a big difference. One family, one baby, one mother at a time. And if we can change just that, if we're hearing what they're saying, I always say that because we have to really listen and make sure that we're not trying to, it's not a personal agenda that we have. And I've always felt that you represent that. It's not a personal agenda, that you're looking at the bigger picture for all of our families. So, I mean, there you go. There's a change there already. You're influencing people, so stay with it, stick with it. We want you to stick around, Alison. I had your book in my hands this morning because for some reason my 23-year-old son was looking at it. No babies in his world yet, but I'm influencing them, Alison, influencing the children. But I can't wait till we see another book as well coming from you. So that's pretty exciting news too. Do you know when that will be out?
Oh gosh, I've been working on it for a while, but there really isn't, you write a second or a subsequent edition when there's a spate of new
New stuff, yeah.
information to add to the old. And even though there is a lot of research going on in the tongue tie world, not much of it's new.
Right,
It's just a restatement of stuff that we already knew,
right.
which is good. We reinforce what we know, and that's great. It
Sure.
solidifies our approaches, but
Yeah,
mostly we just have a bunch of misinformation. So I think this edition is going to be about going back to the evidence and really sticking with my guns on that of look, we are going way ahead of what we know to be true and inventing stuff that's actually
right.
causing harm.
Yeah.
So I think that's going to be more of the focus of this book.
Excellent. Well, and that I think that will support the community too, because I think just generally there's a lot of frustration everywhere. Not having the right information. Tongue tie is a big topic. It continues to seem like it's changing, but it's really we feel that I feel like we need to take a big step back, and make sure that we're not doing more harm than good. And that's where I've sort of landed with it, this last couple of years.
Hmm.
And and I try to again, look at what's real and what's perceived, and because all of those things are influencers. Even for me, you read something really exciting, before before you know it, you're off and practicing it, and it's not evidence based though. And
Yeah.
so, that's not good. It's not good for the clients, and we have to. It's a very vulnerable time for our families because they're usually hurting by this point. There's usually some type of factor going on that they've reached you. So thank you for sharing about that too. I think that's a really good statement, to really be assured about. And so I'll look forward to seeing that in your near future. That book will be on your shelves hopefully soon, right? Hopefully.
Yeah. Well, I'm working on it.
Excellent. Excellent.
Little by little,
Little
it's
by
getting done.
little, that little by little. Well, thank you so much, Alison, for being with us here today. Thanks for chatting with me and being so open and honest about life with you there and grandbabies coming. And I know that you love putting your family first, which is beautiful. So thank you for sharing the fact that you have a little one, a brand new little one in your midst. That's really exciting. And I know our audience will can't wait to hear more about the finger feeder, however, which is coming up. April 1st is our opening keynote, and Alison Hazelbaker is going to be part of our Tools of the Trade add-on package. So we'll see you all online at goldlactation.com. Bye-bye for now, everyone.